Hey everyone, just wanted to take a quick moment, do a miniature army review. Got a new container for my Civil War miniatures, so I figured since I was going to have them out on the table to to replace them in the new box, I figured I might as well show everybody what I've got. So this is my Civil War army that I have so far. They're Confederates. Painted up for the Fire and Fury rule set. Originally, actually intended for the Brigade Fire and Fury, or BOFF, as it's sometimes referred to as. But what I have set is I've got basically these are three divisions, except for this third guy over here is short one brigade that I still need to paint. So 3 infantry divisions each with 2 artillery batteries. And then in the rear, I have one cavalry brigade with its associated dismounted cavalry, as well as a horse battery. I am short 1 cavalry brigade to have that complete, and then I'm also short 1 infantry brigade to have this division complete. And once I get that done, then I'll have an entire corps of Confederate infantry, and then give me a division of Confederate cavalry. And the way our group organized our Fire and Fury armies is each brigade, we averaged them out for each brigade for 8 stands. If you looked at most Fire and Fury scenarios, and you average out all the brigades, it comes out to be about 8 stands. You know, some battles might have 7 stand average, some battles might have a 9 or 10 stand average, but for the most part, an average across the board, or a good starting point average, is 8 stands per brigade. So that's kind of what we went for. And then we did the uniform 3 brigades per division with 2 attached artillery batteries. And then for the cavalry, we didn't really have anything set in stone, but it usually tends to work out the way we've been playing is 2 cavalry brigades plus an attached horse battery for a cavalry division. I guess just a couple of things to point out that are kind of unique about this army. This unit right here is the very first miniature anything that I painted. This would have been painted back in 1990. I don't know, 1998-ish. Actually, it might have been earlier than that, even 1997. And it might actually have been earlier than that. Somewhere in the mid-90s period is when this was painted. And then if we go over to the right, the last infantry brigade that I painted, this guy here, I had enough figures that I just went ahead and made it a 10-stand unit, since I had enough extra units to paint with. And I also had extra figures to make markers. So these markers are painted in the brigade colors. So and these are for Fire and Fury. So this marker here is the brigade is low on ammo. This marker is like a breakthrough marker. So if they win the charge in the charge phase of Fire and Fury, you'd put this marker with the brigade, and then it would indicate that they get an extra bonus during the subsequent charge. And then this marker here, this dead-looking guy, that is a disordered marker. So one of the results of, when you take casualties is a brigade becomes disordered. So you'd set that disordered marker next to them, and that would indicate that they're disordered, and on the chart they'd roll on a different chart, essentially. That's what that would mean. So that is and these are 1/72 scale soft plastic miniatures. I think most of them are like Airfix and IMAX. They're Airfix and IMAX. Have a handful of Italiari. I know these guys, these 2 brigades are Italiari, as well as these artillery are Italiari, as well as the 3 division commanders in front are Italiari figures. I think everything else is mostly IMEX, and that I think I know the Cavalry for sure, except for the dismounted guy there using the horse as cover. That guy, that particular figure is from Italiari Union Cavalry, but the rest are IMEX Cavalry. And then also this brigade here, I used that brigade. I used it was the IMEX Alamo set. And I painted them up as like a Missouri militia. So it kind of has that mishmash looking uniforms and stuff like that that you might see in the Trans-Mississippi area. And then we also have marked up with Pope's flag there, if you can see that. Or not Pope. Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember. I know it's not Pope because Pope was on the federal side. But anyways. So yeah, there's what I have currently painted. I do have a couple of things pulled out to get ready to paint next. And take a look at what I need to paint to finish out my Confederate brigade. I've got a bag picked out for, this will be a brigade, my final Confederate brigade. These are Italiari figures, 1/72nd, again 1/72nd plastic. And most of these guys, I've got them, the figures that I've got are set so they're 4 to a base. But these figures, their sizes are a little too big or ungainly that I won't be able to get 4 to a base. So I'm going to end up doing 3 figures to a base. So that'll be one more 8-stand brigade. And I should also note that the Fire and Fury itself is set up for 15mm figures, so all the basing is a 1-inch frontage by the depth is 3/4 to 7/8 inch depth. And these are 1/72nd plastic. So the frontage I was able to, for the most part, get 1-inch frontage for the infantry on all of them. The depth kind of had to vary just depending on, the figure. So some of them might be a little longer than 1 inch. I think 1.25 inches is fairly common for most of them, but except for some of these units, I was able to keep them compact, so they're on 1 inch square. So yeah, I've got that brigade to paint. I've also got a corps commander. I don't have a corps commander to paint, so I've got these guys selected out to be my corps commander. So here you can see it's going to be two figures on a square base with a flag. I might hatch the base somehow, so that way you can differentiate it. Probably a 2-inch square base. So there's that, and then I've also got, I picked this up, Union Artillery Italiari. I've got a second box. There's 2 artillery tubes in each box, and I picked up a second box, so I got 4 artillery to paint. And the way it works is I've got enough artillery so that way I have the amount of artillery for each division, 2 artillery bases for each division. But unfortunately, we're short on artillery, and we don't have enough artillery to represent any artillery reserve. So if you look, different places on the internet talk about it, especially for Fire and Fury games and making conversions and stuff like that. But on average, I want to say if for every 8 or 9, or excuse me, let me fix that. For every 10 brigades, you would have 8 or 9 artillery pieces. Whereas for the Federals, it would be just slightly more. For every 10 brigades, you'd have 9 or 10 artillery pieces. But as far as things kind of average out, and to make it easy, I'm just going to paint up, and so that way we have 1 artillery battery for every brigade. So that way each division will have 2, and then there will be 3 extra artillery pieces in the artillery reserve, or it would be the core artillery reserve for the Confederates, whereas in the Union, for the most part, they usually get put into an Army artillery reserve, at least in the Eastern Theater. So yeah, I'm going to have 4 extra artillery pieces. So I'll have 3 for the artillery reserve, and then I'll have the 4th one will just be an extra 4th artillery piece, just because as a group we're short on artillery. And then I also got more cavalry boxes. There was 1 Union cavalry box, and then there's 2 Confederate cavalry boxes. And because I need to make another cavalry brigade. Now, these are the same manufacturer of artillery, cavalry, and I mean they're okay. They do a sufficient job. Yeah, I would have wished that they would have the figures pointing forward instead of pointing to the side, so that way they're shooting the guys in front of them instead of the guy next to them. But I mean that, and they're also, for the most part, armed with not carbines, but I don't know if you can see this guy, but it was the short carbine. Basically, it was the pistol with the stock attached to it, which that was a very rare item on the Union side, and practically non-existent on the Confederate side. But these are the miniatures that we have to use to contend with, so unfortunately I don't have a choice in that regard. But anyways, I got some enough cavalry boxes so that way I can make another brigade. And the Union, at least for the IMEX, the Union and the Confederate are fairly similar in sculpt and poses and stuff like that. So I think between the 3 boxes, I should be able to get a fairly nice looking unit that has varied stances and poses and stuff like that. My second, I am not going to have another dismounted stand like that, just because that would, I don't know, it'd look kind of weird to have 2 of them. 1 is more than enough. But otherwise, yeah, so that is my Civil War army that I have. It's 1/72 plastic, based for Fire and Fury. And as I continue painting these up, I'll also show videos of further units that I get painted up, and then once it's all said and done, maybe have a full video. And a cat. There goes the cat. And the cat just killed the Confederates. That's why the Confederacy lost, because the cat jumped on them. But anyways, oh, and there was this last guy, I forgot to tell him. This was like the first commander. I used him as a commander. Kind of not a really exciting pose. So I'm going to use him as a runner. But here's like this commander here. He's that guy, and then there's this guy here. And there's that guy. So, anyways, and there's these guys. Yeah, so we can get a little close up of them so there's those guys there. And for the most part, I did the same uniform coats, did different pants, which is fairly common. The Confederates were actually far more uniform than legend or urban legend seems to indicate. They had a fairly robust depot system, and usually when they get to the ragged look is when they're on extended campaign or away from their a supply line, which happened to the Federals too. So the Federals, there was many situations in which the Federals were far more disheveled and uniforms were falling apart than even the Confederates were. So but anyways, there we go. That's my 1/72 plastic Civil War army base for Fire and Fury, and a cat. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask the questions, and I'll do what I can, the best that I can. Otherwise, once I get, I've also got a Spanish army for 7 Years' War. I can show you guys. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. Talk to you later.